Okay, welcome back to Design Patterns for Game Developers. My name is Charles Hachet, and I'd like to continue where we left off. Today, I'd like to talk to you about why we'd want to use design patterns. So the first thing to note is that design patterns were never meant to be the final word for programming development. They're meant to be a way that we can create this common language that we can use in order to communicate with one another. And in fact, there's no clearly defined exact way in which you'd want to create this every single time. Each one of these is going to need to be in very much the same way that you would with any other programming, abstracted so that it fits what you need. So then the next question becomes, why would you use a design pattern then? If it's just going to be a good idea, why would you invest time and the energy in it? And the answer to that question is because it is a good idea. And what it does is it really helps you to explain the idea that you're wanting to implement in a way that is commonly used and has and shares similar vernacular across the board. So that way, when you say that you're going to be spawning an object in, all you need to say is that you're going to be using a builder for that. Anybody familiar with the design patterns for a builder would already be able to front load in all of the prerequisites for that, and they'd be looking for those flags in your code so that they could see all that terminology built out. Now, myself and any other programmer isn't going to need to know exactly what the implementation looks like, but it will present to us the idea that we should be able to identify certain flags and certain nuances that come with a builder pattern. And so we'd be able to look for those flags and those implementations in your code and have a better understanding of how it is that you are designing your solution. You could think of this common terminology in the same way that we as game developers use cultural terms and vernacular in order to share a complex idea. It's our way of taking some abstract thought and being able to convey it to people. So we could say things like builder, and you can think of that in the same way as saying, I'm going to build a Super Mario style platformer. It should evoke a lot of terminology and a lot of imagery in your mind beforehand, so that way you should be able to say, I think I understand what it is that you're talking about here, and get a good idea. There are people who will take to this and say that there is only one way in which you should implement each one of these, but the truth of the matter is that code should work for you. And code should be a solution for your project in the way that you need it to be able to be solved. Again, these are designed to be helpful terminology and helpful patterns. We're not all trying to build the same project. So what I encourage you to do is to find some way to use this jargon, this terminology in your own implementation. So that way, as you're building it, with that heavy hand of saying that this is going to be this particular piece, this is going to be a factory, this is going to be a client, in each way that you're writing it, you're locking it in your mind that that's the implementation, that that's how that's supposed to work. And it will create for you a understanding of what each one of these elements is designed to do. You don't always have to have that as part of your nomenclature, but it certainly helps, especially early on, for you to understand. And then using terms that are very similar to that will help you to go back and understand the pattern that you're looking on. My hope is that by the end of the series that you too will be able to recognize these landmarks and that you'll have a better understanding of how to implement these features and to be a little bit more performant. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you very much.